It just says waiting for Geek Pollution still.
Oh, weird. Yes, we've only just now started broadcasting, apparently.
That's bizarre.
Yeah, because I hit the live button and it was go. It looked like it was going, and
Hmm.
then it's yeah, weird.
Oh, yeah, no, it just came up.
And now it's like, okay, well, welcome everybody to the ReQuest. I'm Captain Logan. This is Austin the Day Ghost. I just did a minute of preamble, and you didn't get to hear any of that, or the lead-in music, or anything. This is wonderfully professional. This is on YouTube. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, that's so weird.
It gave me the high sign. I hit the go live button.
I guess
We're,
it's a good thing I said something, because I'm looking down and I'm like, surely it's just not loaded on my iPad. Like, surely that's the issue.
yeah, I'm sitting here looking at the seconds counting up right now, just hoping it doesn't start over on us. But it looks like we're actually broadcasting. Dan's
Yeah, I'm
Den
seeing us.
just put in a comment. So put in comments, folks, if you're actually seeing us right now. I would really appreciate that. Anyway, it's the request on this show. People donate on Patreon for us to review things, and apparently people are obsessed with making sure that Austin and I review every Andrew Garfield movie ever made. It's turning into Andrew Garfield Rewind, Austin. I can't explain this, but I think this is like the fifth one.
I'm trying to think. Okay, so we've done Silence.
Oh wow, I was racking my brain earlier and I couldn't even think of names of films.
I can't
It's
think
just
of
like
the.
the one where he's a priest, the one where he's a soldier,
Oh,
the
and that was before me. That was Hacksaw Ridge.
oh yeah, I did
Uh,
Hacksaw Ridge. There's the weird one
Under the Silver
with
Lake,
the
I think.
with the conspiracy theories that reminded
Yeah,
me a little bit of Rear Window in places. Yeah,
yeah.
and I feel like there's one more.
Those are the ones that are coming to me. There might be another one that you've done before I was on, but I can't remember. I feel like Hacksaw Ridge was like right before you brought me on for this,
Yeah, I think it was before we had the request title.
which is a movie I've heard nothing but amazing things about, and I still have to get to it. That's Mel Gibson, isn't it?
Uh huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was wonderful. I would like to see that again at some point.
Hmm.
Some of these start to kind of, fade away because we do so many of these or kind of blend together a little bit. But there's the ones that jump out and stick with you, or at least that you remember the feelings you had while watching it. And that was certainly one of them.
Hmm. Yeah, earlier today, because I have like a ranked list of all of our request movies, and I was like, should I stop doing that? Like, I feel like at this point, like it's been so long since we've done some of them, where it's like it's never gonna be like proper. Like,
There's
the
gonna be
ranking's
those.
always gonna be weird.
Yeah, there's probably, but I would love to still keep seeing your ranking. I have not been ranking them that way. I
Mhm.
should,
I
but
did end up putting it in, but
okay, that's cool. But I was gonna say, I guess the tricky thing is if you have what I do with it, there are gonna be those movies where you're like, this keeps going down the list, and I don't even know what I think of that anymore. It's been so long since we saw it. I saw it the one time. Maybe it didn't make a deep impression.
yeah, but Anchors Away still remains super high, which is probably incorrect, but
Yeah, but that one sticks with me. I
yeah,
also
it's great.
there's also the ones that I've gone back to because I wanted to show them to somebody.
Yeah, like Beyond the Valley of the Dolls, I've seen probably like 4 or 5 times at this point.
I don't have that with that one, but I did have that with Anchors Away, and there's a couple of other things. Before Sunrise, but that was before your time too.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly.
Because I've been
And
doing the requested review thing since well before we called it the request.
mhm. Yeah,
Anyway,
like a few years before that, but yeah.
welcome, folks. I was saying before the recording actually started, but I thought we were broadcasting live. That it's this is just an aside, but we do these movies, and sometimes I wonder how much interest there's going to be in it. Like there are apparently at least 3 or 4 different people that really want us to do Andrew Garfield movies. But I imagine there are folks that are like, why are they talking about this? And sometimes people will actually leave a comment when I announce these, and they'll be like, hey, there's this new movie that you really should be reviewing. Why are you doing this? And I'm like, we don't pick these. This is like a regular weekly series we do. So if you don't like the selection, go to the source. It's not us.
Yeah, why aren't you reviewing Mel Gibson's new film Flight Risk with bald Marky Mark? Why aren't you doing that instead of this?
I've not heard about that. Anyway, let's go ahead and finally get into this. So, this was requested by Tim Drake, not to be confused with, Robin, but I'm sure that's not his real name. I'm sure Tim Drake is just a giant Tim Drake fan.
I was really hoping you were gonna throw a curveball and throw out a different Robin name, not to be confused with Jason Todd.
Although we have another guy that's requested quite a bit named John McClane, and at one point I made a joke about how that's probably not his real name, and then he came back and said, no, it really is. It's actually my name. So I hesitate. I'm like, maybe Tim Drake is actually Tim Drake. It's possible.
That's beautiful.
So, 99 Homes is a movie that came out in 2014, but is about the economic crisis post-2008. So it is set in 2010. It's set a few years before it comes out, and it feels, while I'm watching it, Austin, like a movie that came out late. It's really kind of odd to me that this doesn't get bankrolled and start shooting until 2013, because it's so close to the time that it's set, and yet it's just as things economically are turning around, and it seems like a thing that somebody would have. I wonder if this was a script that was floating around for a couple of years before it could find funding. Or if it was just an idea that somebody had just after that, because it feels like the kind of thing, this is not speaking to the quality of the movie at all, but it feels like the kind of thing that is almost inevitable, and that you would see somebody try to rush real quick after people start losing their jobs, and after the government bailouts of the housing industry and in the automotive industry and all of that. Really odd to me that this comes out as late as it does.
See, I was thinking of well, not while watching it, but when you were just saying that, I think it's Nick Cage, the World Trade Center movie. Where I feel like it's that kind of a movie where you need a few years to kind of let the dust settle, and then you write your film about it, now that you kind of can see all the pieces.
Yeah, but that was a real specific singular event, and this was something we lived in for a while. And
well, I think that just makes it even more so you kind of need to see where it's going, I guess.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, maybe it would seem a little bit more heavy-handed and preachy if it came out and maybe just too close to home for a lot of people. No pun intended. If this comes out in 2010, 2011.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, this is kind of a parable or a morality play about evicting people out of their houses. And Austin, why don't you give us a real quick breakdown of the story?
Yeah, so second General Zod is I'm gonna throw people out of their homes and make a ton of money from doing that. And then just as he was evicted from the role of Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield in this film is evicted from his home. And while looking for work, he gets a job with Michael Shannon to evict other people out of their homes. And he starts making good money from that. And
which seems like kind of a classic situation, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
I was reminded of movies, and I can't think of a great example right now, but I was reminded of movies or just stories about criminal apprenticeships. And this ultimately kind of turns into one of those, but it's real murky. Where it's not full-on criminal, but there are criminal activities involved. But I kept thinking of fictional situations with like a hitman who picks up an apprentice, or I've read the young adult book series Scythe, which is set in the future, and I've talked about this here and there, and is about a world where people, where most people don't die, but a certain number of the masses have to be culled, and so you have these like Grim Reaper characters that take on apprentices, and they kind of draw names out of a hat and go up to, or I guess they get to pick who they want to, but it's somewhat randomized, and they go to people's doors, and they have to kill a certain percentage of people, and this reminded me of that a lot.
Oh, okay, interesting. Um, yeah, like there's like a couple um I guess like not exactly like biopic, but like based on true story dramas that I was thinking of with this kind of a thing. A lot of the kind of like guys in suits screwing up the world type things.
Yeah, like the obvious comparison is Wolf of Wall Street, but this is like, and I guess that's a movie that came out around the same time, right? Maybe a couple years before this.
I think it's the year after. I think it's 2015.
Oh, is it
Or
really?
no, no, no. It's the year before. It's 2013.
That's what I was thinking. I thought it was close to here,
Yeah.
but just before. And I reviewed that as a request at one point as well. But this is kind of like that if the main character had more of a more empathy or a sense of ethics, or if you took the main character and you split him into two people, I guess.
Yeah, that's something I was thinking of where I was like, oh, he's kind of, I guess more like the Michael Shannon guy is more like Wolf of Wall Streety, and then you have like this, outsider that kind of comes in and interacts with him, as opposed to fully basing the story around that character.
Yeah, and I think the question that you're supposed to be asking yourself throughout the movie is he going to turn into Michael Shannon or not?
Hmm. Yeah, exactly.
And I personally was not really surprised by where it goes at the end. I think it's a solid screenplay. I don't know if I want to say it's like too predictable, but I wasn't. I wasn't really surprised.
Yeah. So I was looking, like I did like a little bit of looking into this movie, and one of the things I saw was that it had, I think 92 on Rotten Tomatoes, and I was like, I feel like that's this is the kind of movie that like really uh gets a boost from that. Where I can't see anyone calling this movie bad, but like I thought this movie was good. I don't know if I'd call it great. I did enjoy it quite a bit, but
I did
like
too. I had exactly that same experience with it. Yeah, I
yeah,
don't
it's
know if
like
this
that
is
kind of
quite.
movie.
I'm sorry. What was that?
No, so I feel like it's like that kind of a movie where it's like no one's gonna watch this and be like, "Oh, this is a bad movie." Like it is, like I think almost inherently a good movie. Uh,
Yeah, almost objectively.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it accomplishes what it sets out to do. I think it's a compelling enough story. I don't think it's too ham-fisted or obvious in its messaging.
Hmm. No, I don't think so either. I do think
I
it
mean, its
gets like,
messaging is very clear, but I don't.
yeah,
But I don't feel like it's the kind of movie that's so anti-capitalist that it's like holding up pitchforks and going, anybody with money is horrible. It's more about how the system is broken
hmm, yeah,
and about
exactly.
how easy it is for people in power to take advantage of people. So, like, you could see this as a anti-capitalist movie, but I think it's a little bit more complicated than that,
Yeah,
which I always appreciate.
yeah, I do think
Where
it gets
there's some nuance to it.
yeah, exactly. I do think it gets a little repetitive as it goes along, where I feel like I'm just watching kind of scene after scene of Andrew Garfield evicting people, and I'm like, okay, I kind of want more outside of that.
I
Uh,
had the same thing. I think there's a certain amount of redundancy that's effective in a piece like this,
mhm.
where we need to live in his world and in his head long enough to appreciate his breakdown by the end.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
this is a guy who does not want to be doing what he's doing. He is he feels like he has to take the opportunity that's presented to him in becoming the apprentice of this guy evicting people from their homes. He steps up and starts doing it himself. At first, he's just like fixing houses and then criminally fixing houses, and for Michael Shannon's character, and then Michael Shannon turns around and says, "Okay, you're going to start doing my job," which surprises Garfield's character and probably shouldn't. And then I think like he's never comfortable with it. It's always difficult for him, but he's also taken in by the prospect of being financially independent and of all the wealth that's being dropped on him, but the greed never totally consumes him, and so I do think it's important that we see him be really uncomfortable and do that job a lot.
Mhm.
But there's also, but I said I agree with you, and I do. I think a certain amount of that is necessary. At the
Yeah,
same
I feel
time,
like if
there's a montage that goes on forever that I
I
think
feel
was
like
a little overrun.
mhm. No, I feel like if that stuff's turned up to 10, I want it dialed back to maybe like 9 or 8. Like it's not like I need a a lot of that reduced. I just feel like it's maybe a little bit too much,
I
but
think
only
what
like a little bit.
Yeah, I think would have maybe been more effective than that montage would be just three or four uh, really different examples with a lot of contrast of
Mhm.
different ways that people are responding. Like I really like the scene with the first house he goes to, because the response is exactly the same that he and his mother had,
Mhm.
and you get the
Yeah,
sense
and
that that's probably the standard response is grasping for straws, making every excuse, making every appeal to uh, the the evictor's humanity, and then we see some different responses all intercut with each other, and it might have been more effective if we just gotten three or four like more lengthy scenes.
mhm. Yeah, probably. I do agree. I think it's like mostly in that montage. Like it does go on a little bit too long.
Other than that, I think the movie's paced pretty well, but
Yeah, I think so
it
too.
clocks in at an hour 50. I think this material could have maybe even been handled in just an hour and a half.
Mhm. Yeah, that's probably true. I do find, and it's something that I, I think the movie gets away with, but I'm more interested in like the Michael Shannon aspect of it, than I am like the family drama. But then the family drama also will disappear for long stretches, so I'm like, okay, it's not like it's really holding me back or anything.
That's right. Yeah, I think the movie is almost going overly out of its way to make the family drama as atypical as it can, and it kind of wins right back around, and it is a little typical, right?
Hmm.
I like
Yeah.
it seems like tell me if you agree with this. Like from the start, it goes. I Every movie like this has the nagging wife character. So we don't want to do that this time, or we're going to look like we're pigeonholed into a really typical formula. So let's throw a d20. This time it's going to be a character who doesn't have a wife. He's got in a mother instead, and he's a single father with a son that's living with his mother. And Laura Dern ends up kind of playing the nagging wife character anyway. She just happens to be the mother instead of the wife this time. It's kind of
Yeah.
weird. She's in almost the exact same position she is in The Founder, except she's not the wife this time.
Well, it's really strange because so I found Laura Dern like really annoying in this. She's like probably my one big negative where like I
She
think
is a
her turn.
very hit and miss actress for me.
Yeah,
I
yeah, for
raise an
sure.
eyebrow whenever she shows up, and I'm like, okay, what's Laura Dern gonna bring this time? And I don't mean to be too hard on her. I think she is a good actress, but
Yeah.
sometimes she's given material that, again, like this, is just going, how do we change this situation up some?
Mhm.
And
No,
that
and to be fair to her, I'm talking mostly about material as opposed to like her as an actress.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Where like that is like the more typical part, and I also found it kind of distracting. Where I'm like, I don't know if I can buy that. Laura Dern is old enough to be Andrew Garfield's mom.
Yeah, I had that a little bit too, especially because, but I had more of a difficult time with Andrew Garfield, and his age, just because this is only a couple of years after he's playing a high school kid, and
See, and I think
and I'm watching a guy, and he seemed too old in that movie, but that was my introduction to Andrew Garfield. So in my
yeah.
head, this is what a 16-year-old Andrew Garfield looks like, and he has a kid half that age.
See, and I always have to remind myself he's supposed to be high school age in Amazing Spider-Man, so it's like when he's graduating in two, I'm like, oh, he graduated college. Oh, wait, no, he's in high school. That's right.
Let me
So
read
I'm like,
this.
oh, he's playing a role he's the right age for
Let me
here.
read the super chat real quick, and thanks for joining us if you're watching live right now. Darren Dooley, $5 super chat. Thanks, man. Did this movie change how you think about the Great Recession? So the subject matter really resonated with me because my wife and I went through some economic hardship, just like, like 80% of the rest of the country, when this was going on. Sarah was just out of college. We just gotten married, and when the recession hit, and we're talking like 3 months after we got married, and she landed a job right out of college and had it for just a while, a few weeks, maybe 3 or 4 months. I can't remember now. It's been so long, and was laid off, and then got another job just as she got pregnant with Jason and got laid off again. Like shortly after we found out that she was pregnant with Jason, she got laid off.
And that's
And
rough for a woman to be pregnant and looking for a job, because that's when everyone's like, we're not hiring you. You're going to have to go on maternity soon.
well, and actually, it's funny because it's been so long. I don't know if I'm exactly remembering this right now, and I'm tired. It's been a long day, and
Yeah.
I'm like, either it was she got pregnant and then we found out she was laid off again, or we had just been talking about maybe going ahead and trying to have a kid, and then she got laid off, so we didn't try. I cannot remember how it lined up. But anyway, she was laid off twice, and by the time Jason was born, she had a good job, and we were in good shape, and have been ever since then. But it didn't. Just to answer the question, like it didn't change how I think about it so much as it took me back to those days, and it made me really grateful for the way we pulled out of it. And it did put my life in perspective a lot now. Like I watch a movie like this, and this is not the only experience I've ever had like this. But one of the really effective things about this movie is it does make me kind of appreciate what I have and my lot in life, and it gives me a better perspective. It makes me not take things for granted so much.
Yeah, for sure. And it didn't really for me, more so just because um, like I know quite a bit about like this period and like this whole situation, so it's something that I think about like pretty often anyways. So it's more so like you said, just kind of living in that spot again.
One thing I think is really smart about this movie, and especially as a morality play, is it doesn't get into the weeds of. And I mean, I guess there's a story to be told here as well, but it's not vilifying people who are just legitimately above board doing their jobs, even if they're no fun jobs to have, right? If you're dealing with somebody who is just repossessing cars or evicting homes, and they are, like Michael Shannon says he is, not the people that are actually doing the evicting, but simply the person that speaks for them, the representative. You get, and I think the movie captures this really well. You get why the people losing their homes want to shoot the messenger, but it really isn't the messenger's fault. Like somebody has to do that job. You know, it's sort of like the defense attorney for a known murderer, where a lot of people want to go like, how dare you represent that person? Well, somebody has to. It's the way the system works. It's the way due process works. If nobody steps up to do that, that person doesn't get a fair trial, and then the system breaks down. Like it actually is not justice unless somebody does that very difficult, you know, like hard to put up with sort of job. And I like the choice in this to make this guy like slimy and criminal.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. Especially because I feel like as you're watching it, like you're seeing like that kind of get peeled back, where like as it's going, or like right from the get go, like you were saying, I'm like, oh, he's just doing his job at the end of the day, and then as it goes, you're like, wait a minute, there's a little bit more here. Hold on now.
I actually kind of needed his mom to get more of a sense of the of the slimier aspect of it, because she's upset, and like kind of rightfully so, but she's upset that he's making his money doing the same thing that Michael Shannon's character did that got them evicted in the first place. And my rebuttal to that is, okay, but you're going to get your house back.
Yeah, no, I needed exactly that too, because I was like, okay, but like he is working, like it's a crappy job that sucks. Like nobody wants to have to do that, but like you got to do what you got to do at the end of the day.
Yeah, and there could have been an interesting, like even without the criminal part of it, there could have been an interesting discussion about, like, whether I like a character like that should be able to sleep at night if they do that after having that experience, like whether or not that really is a moral issue. There could have been a discussion there, but I did think it was kind of odd that she doesn't know everything the audience knows, and reacts the way she reacts to it.
No, I had the same thing.
It plays almost like he's Rocky down at the docks being a mob enforcer or something, and from her perspective, she can't know that that's what's really happening.
No, all she knows is that he's evicted people, and then she repossesses his kid, and I'm like, that's not legal.
That seems like a double standard.
Yeah, exactly.
But you're right. How does that work? She's not the mother. It's almost like the movie forgot that she wasn't the nagging wife. It was actually his mother.
Yeah, I was like, she can't just do that.
I have a couple of reservations I wanted to ask you about.
Yeah,
Or
go
just
for it.
questions. One is just kind of a neither here nor there, like silly kind of logic question, which is a big deal is made at the beginning when Garfield and his family are evicted from their house, about all of their stuff on the lawn, and how if they don't get it off the property in 24 hours, it will be removed for them. And we're never told where all the stuff goes. Like, they bring everything they can get on a truck to the crappy hotel or motel complex that they have to go live in. But you see all the rest of their belongings strewn out on in the yard. And I thought it was kind of weird. Like, did they lose all of it? Did they somehow
I
get
think
it
so.
in a storage unit? Like, it's kind of weird that that's never talked about.
Yeah, no, I think they do lose everything. It is weird there isn't a moment where they stop and go like, "Oh, we lost like most of our things."
Yeah, like I don't want to advocate for making kids too whiny in a movie, but it's a little odd that that if they lost everything, the kid doesn't bring it up again, at the very least, because he's missing toys and stuff. Like it's kind of weird that never comes up again.
Yeah, like, oh, my Game Boy was in the bin that was on the yard.
That's one of the few things he got. He's playing with that
another
later.
one.
I don't know if you saw that.
That was another one.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
His
he's,
BlackBerry was in the in the bin on the yard.
They were overly privileged then anyway. He doesn't need multiple handhelds. He's got his handheld. He's good.
Exactly. You can't have a BlackBerry. It's 2010. Come on now.
All these entitled children now. I say as I'm sitting on like 3 switches and. But anyway, another question I had for you, and I just couldn't decide quite where to land on this because I can see both sides of it.
Mhm.
Do we buy that Michael Shannon's character, like actually goes after this guy? That this is the person he decides to apprentice?
Um.
Because it turns out exactly the way I kind of thought it might. And
Mhm.
again, the movie wants you to wonder if he's going to be corrupted by Shannon, but all through it, we get all these like I know this is weird evidence. We get all these close-ups on Garfield's face that make it really clear that he's always, like I said, uncomfortable and like he is really moralizing every decision that he makes. And I would think that Shannon would pick up on the like innate altruism in this guy from the beginning and be like, I can't mold that.
Yeah, I felt like because I was wondering that too while watching it, and I think at a certain point I just kind of settled and went. I feel like that's just kind of the conceit, which is
Yeah.
unfortunate.
I wish
But
they'd sold us on that a little bit better because
yeah,
because I feel like the idea as it's presented, it's just the guy's got gumption.
yeah,
And
because I think.
that's kind of it, but
Mhm.
like he it bites him in the ass at the end and he should have seen it, like the empathy.
Well, especially because you got that far, yeah. No, I feel like while, like I said, this is a good movie, I do think there's a more interesting character study about that guy, um, like somewhere in here.
What did you think of Michael Shannon's performance?
I thought he was really good.
Yeah, I thought he was too.
Mhm. I mean, I think the cast overall is quite good. Like Andrew Garfield is really good in it as well.
If this movie is made 10 or 15 years earlier, and obviously this is a response to the housing crisis, and so it wouldn't have been, or at least exactly as it is.
It would be Tobey Maguire as the main guy.
Sure, but I was gonna say Michael Shannon's character seems almost tailor made for a Tommy Lee Jones.
Mm. Okay, yeah, I can see that.
I felt like that would have been the guy if you'd done this a little bit earlier
It
than this.
wouldn't be.
And that's not to take away from Michael Shannon. I think he's really good. I kept thinking that. I guess Brolin could have done
Or it could have been Toby and Terrence Stamp.
it. Sure, sure. Get another Zod in there.
Yeah, exactly.
And Defoe might have been okay, but he would have been a little too crazy.
Yeah, he probably would have been a little too crazy. You know, I'm something of an evictor myself.
But I liked the way this explored how easy it is to take advantage of people and finding loopholes in the system like this. And again, the morality play of if it saves your home, do the ends justify the means? And they clearly don't for Andrew Garfield because he's seeing everybody else he's putting in the same kind of position. I also really like that he tries to get a vicious cycle going, and when that doesn't work, that's basically the thing. Having seen this once, I would argue that kind of breaks him out of it. Where one of the people that he evicts, he goes back to and says, "Do you want a job?" Like he's trying to get the same ball rolling that Shannon did, and it could have just been this vicious cycle. And it's this really like screwed up, awful trap that maybe the only way out of this situation is to become the thing that put you there. This almost like deal with the devil kind of situation. And I love that spiral breaks immediately, and then he goes, "Yeah, I can't be a part of this."
Yeah, yeah, because if everyone's an evictor, then no one is. But yeah, no, I really like that scene as well, and that and the scene where they're at the motel that they have to stay in, and the one person he evicted like moves in there and freaks out.
Yeah, that's a killer scene.
Hmm
That guy's really good, and I like how scary he is, but is really like sympathetic at the same time.
Mhm.
When he, because like the kid's in danger, and
Yeah.
so that makes the stakes feel higher. So when he comes in and like he's already just from the perspective of our characters, kind of scary in the parking lot, and then we get into the apartment and he starts slamming on the door, and all that felt really realistic. And
Mhm. Yeah, no, I thought so too.
what do you do in that situation? And I also like just the way that Garfield's character brings that on himself. And then and I also like how difficult it is for him to make the right choice at the end. There is a like sappier, clumsier version of this movie where he has a big speech to Shannon at the end before you could even get to the hostage situation.
Mhm.
And like the standoff with the guy with the gun at the end, where he would say, I wanted my home back, but I'm losing my family, and this isn't worth it, and go to hell. And you could have had that scene. I like that he's got all these opportunities for change, and he keeps like barely going through with things. So you get that bit toward the end where he's supposed to hand over the forged document, and like he shows up really late. He almost doesn't even go, and then he just he's almost catatonic. He like stands in the middle of that room, and the guy he's supposed to hand it off to literally has to walk up and yank it out of his hand. I really liked all of that.
Yeah, that all of that was really good. I do think so. If the eviction dial is up to 10, I do feel like the sappiness is probably at like a 3. Where like I do think it is a little sappy by the end, but you're right. It could be a lot more so,
It could have been a lot more
and
so.
it's more so in like the final scene, and not so much like what you were just talking about.
Yeah, I do wonder if the ending could have been handled a little bit more subtly where we didn't have to go to a typical Hollywood standoff.
Yeah, and I don't know. There was just something about how it played, where it's like, oh, you said the thing, so now like the cops are all surrounding Michael Shannon, and they're gonna get him now. And then they put Andrew Garfield in the cop car, and the kid that he just evicted is smiling at him. I was like, I don't know. I feel like that's like a little too sappy.
Yeah, it suddenly goes to like a John Hughes place or something.
Yeah, or like a Spielberg sap.
Yeah, I was not expecting that from this, and I thought this material was a little bit better than that.
Mhm.
I and like I don't mind where we are at the end. I don't mind the somewhat ambiguous ending.
No, I
I
don't either. I think that helps it,
or maybe I
get
should
like a
say
3 as opposed to higher.
open ended over ambiguous,
Yeah.
because you can kind of guess at some of what will happen. Like Michael Shannon's character's probably done.
I bought them off. That's what
Yeah,
happened. Is it what
or
life?
that could happen too. It's hard to say what Andrew Garfield's character does. Like, do they move back in the house or not? That's a question.
Hmm. Yeah, does he get prison time? Probably. Maybe.
Yeah, yeah, maybe because like Michael Shannon's obviously going to implicate him.
Hmm. Yeah,
Did you
exactly.
need to know any of that? Did you need to go any further? Or were you okay with it ending the way it was? Because I think I was okay with it.
No, I'm okay with that because, like I said, I feel like if it went farther into that, it could have been a little bit more sappy than it was. But
Yeah, and of course, the ultimate sappy thing to do would have been to put the words on the screen and tell us like how much jail time each person got, and do the biopic ending. Which, let's not pretend like there's no fictional movie that's never done the biopic ending, because that happens.
or like he's on trial and they're like he's about to be pronounced guilty, and then the family comes in and they're like, wait a minute, we can't put him away now.
That Connor guy, who, by the way, this is the guy who did that really great edit for me that I posted the other day for the top 50 DC movies. Thanks to him, he's a really great editor. He and I were talking about having him help me with the movie. But anyway, he says I watched this in The Revenant on a plane a while ago. Talk about a somber flight.
He had to watch that child abuse movie we watched just to cheer up.
I never understood how people can watch like plane crash movies on an airplane,
You know what the
or
weirdest I had
why
once?
they're available.
Yeah, I don't know. You know what the weirdest I had once was though? I watched Iron Man 3 on a plane, and
That's great.
and so like Tony is on the plane, and like the door explodes off, and everyone goes flying out, and then it just cut, like it's just like hard cut to Tony flying away from when he drops them all in the water and he gets hit by the truck. It's like, oh, they completely cut that whole sequence out.
Oh, weird. I
Yeah,
wonder
I've never
why.
seen that before.
You know what I thought you were gonna say? I thought you were gonna say that happens, and then your movie was paused, and a flight attendant came over and was like, "We're
Turn that off.
stay in your seats. We're gonna experience some turbulence."
No, it's just like, oh, the plane's about to be in trouble. Oh, no, never mind. Tony just flew away. It was very weird.
Yeah, back to this real quick. And I don't have a lot left to throw out there, but but it did get a little bit more Hollywood at the end than I think it needed to.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. No, I had a bit of that, but not as bad as it could have been. It was still overall a solid package.
I also thought that his neighbor with the gun at the end, just the whole setup for that was the most contrived thing in the movie. That like
Hmm.
the character that Michael Shannon tries to illegally get evicted, because that's the situation that happens, is that there's a forged document that he comes up with in his scheme to get this contract that will give him all of this extra real estate. Like he's basically a well, I almost said a secret. I guess it's not really a secret, but he's basically a like a real estate mogul who is masquerading as a real estate agent.
Hmm.
And so he says that a few years ago he was just kind of a standard real estate agent, and now he's through evicting, finding these loopholes that's allowing him to buy up all this property himself. I feel like there's an inherent conflict of interest there, and that should not necessarily even be legal.
Hmm. It happens.
It definitely seemed like a thing that probably happens. That was the part of it that I had never really thought about before. Back to
Hmm.
the question of did this make me think any differently about the recession? Like not the recession itself, but I just went I mean, I guess there's just legal loopholes and corruption in the system in every kind of industry.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's, little holes and things that people find their way to worm through.
Uh, but but yeah, the idea that the guy that becomes the big catalyst for the possible downfall of Michael Shannon's character at the end is the father of his kid's best friend. That all seems a little contrived, like a little easy.
A little too easy. That scene though, where they're stealing power, all I could think of is I've been in that situation. I remember going to my dad's house once, and using a new build, and they were taking his electricity without saying anything, and he was just like, "What the hell is this?"
Yeah. That Connor guy also says, I also watched Flight on a plane because I simply couldn't believe it was an option.
You got to watch Airplane on a plane.
I would totally watch Airplane on a plane.
That'd be an awesome one. And you have to watch Taxi Driver in a Taxi.
But then watching Airplane on a plane would be disappointing because then you get off the plane and Pilot would not be a blow up doll.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. I would be very sad
And
if
that's just
autopilot
it's
wasn't there.
disappointing. Hey, last thing I want to ask you about this movie, Austin, is what is the title getting at?
Well, we had to watch 99 homes get evicted in that montage. No, throughout the movie, I was thinking about it, and then when I hit that montage, I was like, "Oh, here's the 99 homes."
Well, so it's actually kind of a big plot point that Michael Shannon is trying to again get his hands on this contract that will give him 100 homes, and that phrase keeps coming up over and over again, almost like you would have expected the screenplay to be called 100 homes. And so it being called 99 homes, I feel like there's some kind of idea in that I'm not grasping. Because if you called it, and you wouldn't do this because of Dalmatians, but if you called it 101 homes, then I'd be able to give you a read on it, because it'd be the 100 homes that Michael Shannon is trying to get his hands on, but the only one that really matters is the home that Garfield and his family are trying to get back to. And there's also this kind of inherent idea that I like this is subtle and it's not really talked about, but like houses versus homes. And I like that Michael Shannon is so manipulative that he refers to houses as homes, but he has no appreciation for the concept of a home. Like, he deals in homes like comics or trading cards. And I really liked that aspect of his character. We didn't talk about that, so I wanted to put a pin in it. I wanted to just kind of tack that on real quick. That
Absolutely.
I like that he looks at houses like any other kind of widget that you would sell.
No,
And
he's a really interesting guy. That's why I'm like, there's that part of me that's like, oh, this would probably be a better movie if it was just about him. But I do like this movie.
yeah, but I think I appreciated the contrast between them and getting the like human aspect of it. Like, you're right, there are two totally different movies you can make, right? Like, that would not be a morality play, that would be a cautionary tale.
No, exactly. But as for the title,
But I don't see how you can go backwards with it. I don't see how you can say, like, it's the 100 homes thing and then it's 99 because of the other. I don't get it.
I think for that it's probably like the Assault on Precinct 13 thing, where it just sounds better. Where that is a movie that takes place in the 9th precinct, but yeah.
Connor says I
Yeah.
took it as a double meaning with the 99%. That's possible. It's possible that's what they're getting at. But even though we're dealing with the Great Recession and there is a clear, classism, social commentary we're dealing with, I don't feel like the movie is as much about the 1% as even like a Wolf on Wall Street. So much as just, this is a guy that's able to take advantage of the situation these people are in.
No, I feel like it probably just is like a title that sounded better than like 100 homes.
That's what Dan's Den says. I bet that's right. And I wouldn't have thought anything of it if they hadn't made a big plot point out of 100 homes.
Well, that's why I'm saying it's like the Assault on Precinct 13 thing, because
And I don't know anything about that.
yeah, because in that movie it's like, oh, we're going to Precinct 9.
So why is it called that? Yeah,
It just sounds better.
Okay. That's actually worse than this.
Because it's a great title.
And I do think it is a good title. I just don't quite get it with the actual material as presented.
Yeah, no, at a certain point, because I was trying to like read it the entire movie, and then at a certain point I gave up. I was like, I don't think it actually means anything.
It probably doesn't mean anything. So it sounds like Austin and I are both in agreement that it's probably a recommend, but not a Hall of Fame movie.
Yeah, probably.
Or at least for me. Because I guess I guess we've talked about this. We're like, for me, Hall of Fame is like the absolute tip, like tippy top, and for you, it's like if it doesn't suck, it's in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, but yeah, I guess you have to have like a cutoff somewhere. Like, I thought this was really good. I don't know if I'll ever watch it again, but
Yeah,
maybe.
that's kind of where I was with it,
Hmm.
but I wouldn't be opposed to it.
No, exactly. Like, if I'm at someone's house and they're like, "Hey, do you want to watch 99 Homes?" I'll be like, "That's a good movie, sure."
Or if there was somebody that I thought that this would really resonate with.
Hmm. Somebody that already owns 98 homes and you want to convince them to buy another one.
Okay, Austin, next time, and I'm going to double check with Josh and make sure that I'm right about this, because sometimes I don't write down the medium because I just figure I'll figure it out. But Josh asked for a this Doolittle, something that I had never heard of before, so I looked it up and it took me a minute to find it, and I'm pretty sure it's comics. He asked for Ultimate Human,
Yes, I've
and
read that before. That's Ultimate Hulk versus Iron Man.
Iron Man, yeah.
I remember it being cool. It's been a long time. That's actually, you know what?
This somehow I had never heard of
That's actually
in the
kind of
Ultimate
perfect
line.
timing because that's where we get Ultimate, the leader,
Oh,
and we're about to
crazy.
get the Captain America movie
Well, that's
with
cool.
the leader.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts that that lined up.
Yeah, no kidding.
Dylan says he watched 99 Homes in a home.
Boo! You should have watched it in 99 Homes, where you watch like a little bit and then a little bit and then a
Just keep
little.
jumping around.
It's like a pub crawl.
Or you find 99 different people in different homes to do a watch party on it.
Oh, so you have 99 in a home?
Yes. Individual homes.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, so Ultimate Human for next time.
Awesome. I remember that being cool, but I haven't read it in like over a decade at this point.
Well, I'm curious. I had no idea what that was. And most of the Ultimate line I've heard of.
And that's Warren Ellis, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've read a decent amount of Ultimate stuff, but
Hmm.
not this. Okay, well, we're going to go ahead and get going. If you are watching live right now and you want to stay up even later and hang out with us, Austin and I are going to do at least another hour on our ongoing, but we don't have too much more left, hopefully. Top 100 favorite superhero movies of all time. We're at 26, so should be just... I would hope 3 more streams would do it. Maybe 2 if we're really lucky. A lot of the movies that are coming up will be things that we've talked ad nauseum about already.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
we might be able to go a little bit quicker, but it's also us. So
Yeah. We have been averaging like 5 to 7 a stream, so we'll see.
we'll see what happens. And it's been a while, so we won't remember what discussions we've had already.
No, or what movies have come up, probably.
Yeah. But we'll see what happens. So anyway, we'll be back in about 10 or 15 minutes for that. And in the meantime, I was Captain Logan, and this was Austin, the Day Ghost.
See ya, folks.